Hey everybody, welcome to the video. So we're going to my core plays for week 7 of the NFL season over on Draftkings. And I gotta be honest guys, this week it was pretty hard to filter this down to just 5 players because there is a ton of good plays on this slate, but I think I filtered it down to around 5 guys that I think are a nice solid core group to roll with this weekend. Also, if you find this video helpful in any way possible, please leave a like on the video, and if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out and I really do appreciate that. And without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, so leading off with core play number 1, we have no other than ALVIN KAMARA at $7,900. Now, earlier on in the week, I thought this would be Aaron Jones in this position, but since he's on the injury report now with a calf strain issue, I just don't feel the need to risk that when I can just play ALVIN KAMARA, who should have a fantastic game here versus Carolina. And also, Michael Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders are going to be out for this game. So I think we should view ALVIN KAMARA as the RB1 and the wide receiver 1 on this team this weekend. And you can't ask for a much better matchup. There's a couple of better matchups than Carolina, but they're right up there with being one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. And ALVIN KAMARA's work through the passing game makes him a super elite play with a very high floor and a super high ceiling each and every single week. Like, the guy's got wide receiver 1 numbers on the season so far. Nearly 9 targets per game, almost 8 catches per game, a 26.6% target share, which there's a lot of wide receivers that wish they had that kind of a target share. A 45% weighted opportunity share, and overall some just very, very strong numbers. Doesn't do a ton of damage on the ground, but he's very efficient with his touches, and he always seems to score touchdowns. He's a touchdown scoring machine, so I love ALVIN KAMARA here, and the matchup versus Carolina is absolutely excellent. They're allowing 33.5 DraftKings points per game to the position, which is 4th most in the league, over 100 rushing yards per game, nearly 1.5 rushing touchdowns per game as well. And an added bonus, they're actually kind of getting killed through the air by running backs, which is ALVIN KAMARA's bread and butter. He's one of the best running backs in football, and I think there's going to be a lot of checkdowns to ALVIN KAMARA here. So love the upside here. I love the high floor as well. And I know he's a bit expensive, but there's plenty of value on this slate to be able to fit him in. So KAMARA, he's one of my favorite plays on this slate. And core play number 2 is our first wide receiver of this video, and that's going to be Terry McLaurin at $5,800. I absolutely love McLaurin on this slate, and it's going to be really hard to fade him in any format. Yes, he's going to be pretty chalky, so in tournaments, maybe it's worth a pivot, but in cash games, and really just in all formats, I love Terry McLaurin. If you just disregard ownership, I mean, it's going to be really hard not to play this guy. He is just simply a little bit too cheap for how talented he is, the volume he's going to get, in this pristine matchup versus Dallas. Like, they have been absolutely horrendous versus the wide receiver position this season, allowing nearly 50 DraftKings points per game to the position. They're 20th in the league versus that. 181 receiving yards per game, and nearly 2 receiving touchdowns per game as well to the position. And Terry McLaurin is really the only viable pass-catching option on the Washington football team. Yeah, Logan Thomas exists. Antonio Gibson's fine on the ground, and there's a couple of other wide receivers, but no one's nearly as talented as Terry McLaurin. The only thing holding this guy back is quarterback play, and look, it's never fun having Kyle Allen throwing the football, but the volume alone should be able to get him there. And if you're looking at his target numbers this season, he's doing very well in that category. A near 50% market share of the team's air yards, a 28% target share, a 73% weighted opportunity share, and nearly 10 targets per game. So Terry McLaurin, the volume's going to be there. The matchup's great. He's super talented. Only drawback is the quarterback play, but I think he's going to be fine. So love Terry McLaurin, and I think he's going to have a very, very strong game this weekend. Alright, and core play number 3 is our second running back of this video, and it's KAREEM Hunt at $6,800. I'm a big fan of Hunt this week, and I think the Browns bounce back this week after an awful game versus Pittsburgh. Baker Mayfield dug them in a hole early with the pick 6, and they were down 10 points, and they really just couldn't establish the run or get anything going. But they get a softer matchup here versus Cincinnati. And last time they played Cincinnati, they put up a ton of points. Now, they're going to be without Nick Chubb, which does hurt the offense. But this puts KAREEM Hunt in a better volume situation. He played very well versus Cincy on week 2. I believe he had around 24 fantasy points, got in the end zone twice, I believe. Now, it helps that Nick Chubb was able to keep the defense, worn out. And KAREEM Hunt comes in fresh and kind of beats up a beaten up defense with fresh legs. So he's not going to have... He's unfortunately not going to have that luxury this week, but the volume alone makes him a very good play. He's one of the more talented running backs in the NFL. This is a team that likes to run the ball quite a bit. And before last week, they were a team that were putting up a ton of points per game. They were nearly on top of the charts of points per game offensively. So I think they bounce back here. They're going to want to establish the run. KAREEM Hunt, so obviously a very talented running back, and he's going to be able to pass the game as well. And this is a good matchup on the ground versus Cincinnati, allowing nearly 120 rushing yards per game, nearly a rushing touchdown per game, and allowing 24.5 DraftKings points per game to the position, which is actually more mid-pack, but love Kareem Hunt here, and they are 23rd DV versus the run. So $1,600. I mean, it might feel a little bit expensive, but for the talent that Kareem Hunt is, I think he's going to be totally fine here. All right, and core play number 4 is our second wide receiver we're going to talk about, and it's Keenan Allen at only $6,200. This is one of my favorite plays on the entire week, and I love pairing up with Justin Herbert in all formats. I even think you can do that pairing in cash games, but it's going to be really hard to get away from Keenan Allen. Now, if you're looking at his numbers this season, you have to keep in mind that he left that Week 5 game versus the Saints very early on. He did score in that game, so he still had around 10 fantasy points, but he left that game early on, and it's going to hurt him in his per-game numbers. When you look at the targets, like he's only getting 9.4 targets per game, and I say only, that is very good, but games before that, he was seeing double-digit targets nearly every week. He had a game with 19 targets. I believe that was in Week 3. Not saying he's going to get 19 targets here, but we should expect double-digit targets here. It's a very, very soft matchup versus the Jacksonville Jaguars, who have one of the worst defenses in the league. That's versus the run and versus the pass, so I think the Chargers just roll over here, or not roll over, I guess roll over the Jaguars defense, I should say. They have a team total of nearly 29 this week. And Keenan Allen, I mean, his numbers have just been superb so far. Over a 31% target share in this offense, nearly a 70% weight opportunity share, a 30% market share of the team's air yards. And he's got a great individual matchup here. He's got one of the highest wide receiver versus cornerback matchup advantages over on PFF this week, and I believe only behind Kenny Golladay and Calvin Ridley. I think so. I think that puts him at third. There might be another guy, if I can remember correctly, but he's near the tops of the list, and I love Keenan Allen. If you're looking at what the Jaguars have done this season versus the past, they're dead last, 32nd DVOA versus that, allowing 36.7 DraftKings points per game to the wide receiver position, which is more mid-pack. But Keenan Allen, the volume's going to be there. He's just a little bit too cheap. It's a great matchup. He had an extra week of rest with the bye week to deal with the back spasm, so I'm not really too concerned about that injury here, and I think he's going to have a fantastic game. I like him on all formats, and I absolutely love the pairing with Justin Herbert. And I'm actually a fan of the entire Chargers offense. If you want to roll Justin Herbert, Hunter Henry, and Keenan Allen out in the same lineup, that's one of my favorite trios of the week. And also like the running back Justin Jackson as well, who I guess isn't the best correlation play with those guys. But if you want to forego the pass game and go contrarian with the run game with Justin Jackson, I think that's fine too. But big fan of the pass game for the Chargers offense for sure. All right, and the fifth core play I want to talk about is our third running back, and it's Giovani Bernard at $4,500. It's just going to be hard not to play him with Joe Mixon being out. Heading into this week, Joe Mixon was one of the league leaders in touches every single week, or not every single week, but per game. So that's a lot of touches to go around for this offense, and Giovani Bernard has always been a fine fill-in for Joe Mixon. Like, he's not a bad running back. He's a capable fill-in running back, and he's going to be a capable pass catcher as well. Should get you around 20 touches here, which is just fine for me at $4,500 versus Cleveland. Now, Cleveland's defense, it's a little bit worse versus the pass than it is versus the run, but this price tag is just going to be too hard to pass up, especially in cash games. Now, there's a couple of guys you could pivot to in tournaments that are in a similar price range that are going to see some pretty heavy workloads like Kenyon Drake and Justin Jackson. But Bernard's the safest one, and it's a decent matchup versus Cleveland. They are 20th DVA versus the run, but they're only allowing 73 rushing yards per game to the position, or obviously not to the position, but just in general. To the position, they're allowing 24.2 DraftKings points per game, which is a little bit above league average, just a little bit above. But they're allowing over a rushing touchdown per game. And Giovani Bernard, I mean, if you're going to give me close to 20 touches at $4,500, you don't have to do much, and I think he's probably going to find the end zone too. So, big fan of Giovani Bernard here, but again, there is some pivots in tournaments, but in cash games, I think you just eat the chalk here. I think this is some pretty good chop. This is some pretty good chalk, and he should have a decently good game versus Cleveland, which is all you need at $4,500. In the sixth and final core play I want to talk about, I think I said it earlier in the video, I picked 5. Well, I picked 6, so you get a bonus pick this week, but it's Kenny Golladay at $6,700. He's a little bit pricey, but I love him in all formats here. He gets a great matchup versus Atlanta, and kind of similar to Keenan Allen. The Lions stack and the Chargers stack is very similar this week. So Chargers, you're kind of looking at Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, Hunter Henry. For the Lions, you're looking at Matthew Stafford, T.J. Hawkinson, and Kenny Golladay. So it's a very similar stack this week, and they're also kind of similar prices as well. The Lions are a bit more expensive, but they get I would say a little bit better matchup versus Atlanta fantasy points wise. I mean, Jacksonville's 32nd DVA versus the pass, but the Atlanta Falcons are kind of right up there with them. But let's talk about Kenny Golladay specifically. He should smash here. He's only played in 3 games so far this season, but he's either scored in each game or he's been over 100 receiving yards, and I think that's going to continue here versus Atlanta. And just looking at PFF's numbers in the matchup column for his wide receiver versus cornerback matchup column, he just is bright green in every single category there. Like, he should be able to smash in this matchup. He's projected to go up against Kendall Sheffield here, and he's got the largest, or biggest, largest, whatever, wide receiver versus cornerback matchup advantage this week, even above Calvin Ridley, even above DeAndre Hopkins. And Sheffield's giving up 0.52 fantasy points per route covered this season and 2.79 yards per route covered as well, which is one of the tops in the entire league. Atlanta is currently 30th DVA versus the pass, allowing 47.2 DraftKings points per game to the position, which is the third most in the NFL, over 200 receiving yards per game, and over a receiving touchdown per game too. So Kenny Golladay, huge fan of him this weekend. I think he can certainly have a blow-up game versus a very, very poor Atlanta pass defense. And that's going to be it for this video, guys. I hope it was helpful. If it was, make sure you leave a like. And if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. It really helps me out. I really do appreciate it. And if you want to check out my other content, I did a lineup building video earlier this morning. And then I did my favorite high-end targets video, mid-range, and value plays as well. I did a first look. And also do NASCAR content, too, in the races tomorrow, which I realize that overlaps with NFL. So I understand if you don't want to play that, but I'm going to get out of here, guys. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I hope all of your contests go very well, and hopefully the core plays video, these guys end up looking pretty good on Monday morning. All right, see you guys, and have a great day.